Hi, I'm Liz with Liz's Crafts, and today I'm going to show you how I made these two polymer clay covered pins. So I have this green and pink polymer clay balls. And I'm going to flatten them out a little bit, and then I'm going to run them through my pasta machine. Now, this machine I got at Hobby Lobby years ago. And if you have a pasta machine and you're going to use it for this clay, please do not use it for food after that. So I'm running it through on about the number 6 setting, and then I'll go to the number 4 setting to make it a little skinnier. Now I just keep kind of running it through until I get to the number 1 setting, which is the thinnest. Now I did the pink. I'm just going to fold it in fourths, and I'm going to run it back through. Squish it good. So that's about the size I want it, and now I'm going to do the same thing with the green piece. Now this is some polymer clay that I've had for years. It is kind of crumbly to start out with, but you just have to work with it until the heat of your hand warms it up and it becomes more pliable and not so crumbly. So there's the green, and I'm just going to layer them on top of each other. However, if I had to do this again, instead of layering it on top of each other, I would do it side by side, because the pink and the green did end up turning to orange. And that really wasn't what I was looking for, but hey, I went with it. And then I kind of changed that up a little bit, but you'll see that towards the end of the video. So again, I'm just folding it once I get it out of the pasta maker, and I fold it in half and I run it through again, and I just keep doing that. So there it is, it's turning orange. I'm just kind of picking up the pieces off my mat there. When you're ready to cover the pin, you want the setting to be on 1, so it's the thinnest that it can get your clay for you. There it is. Now it's orange and pink. You do want it more on the slender, long side, if that makes sense. You'll see here in a minute. And I say to make this, you really do need a pasta maker. And there are lots of videos out there on how to do this. So if you don't like the way I'm doing it, then you can find somebody else who probably does it better than I do. I do pick up the pieces off of my mat there with my clay. We don't want things other than clay on it, so I pick those off. It's probably a piece of glue or something. I really do like making these pens. So I made about 16, 17, probably about 20 of them. I'm just going to show you 2 of them that I did. So this is about the size you're going to need. And these are the pens I'm using, and I just got mine at the Dollar Tree. So a package of 8 was $1.25, and then you take the ink filler out of the pen itself. And these are those big gray looking tube pens. And when you start to wrap it, you don't want your ends to overlap. So when you start to roll it, don't let your ends overlap, or you're going to end up with bubbles. So make sure you cut your clay just short of the ends meeting, and then you can press them together so that they meet. So something like this. I'm just pressing it together. Of course, there is a way to fix it if you do end up with bubbles in there, because you do want to fix it before you bake it. And after you bake polymer clay, it pretty much feels like plastic. Now, even though these ends didn't meet, it was making bubbles, so I did take a little more of the clay off of it. And this is just a cutting tool that I have. So there I am, just pressing those 2 ends together. And then when you're doing the back end of it, where the tube is plugged up, you don't want too much clay there, because it will cause bubbles with that too. And then I'm just rubbing my thumb along the seam line, and then you want to rub it in your hands, and then you can rub it on your mat. Now this is a silicone mat, and I did get mine from Amazon. There were 3 in a package. And you want your clay to be as smooth as you can get it. Just rubbing it with my hands on the mat to smooth it out. So there's a couple places that I needed a little bit more clay. So you just add those in. And then you can press it with your fingers, and then you can roll it in your hand or roll it on your mat. So there is an air bubble here, so I'm just taking a stick pin, sticking it in the bubble, and then squeezing the air out. So I had a couple of them, so that's what I'm doing to both of those. And that's all you have to do, and you just press it down. And I'm smoothing it out, rubbing it with my hands on the mat. And then I did get a piece of the clay down at the end of the tube where the ink filler goes back in, so I had to get that out. You don't want to bake it with that in there. I'm just getting another little piece of clay to fill up a hole on the side there, rubbing it in, filling in a couple more. Just showing you. I think I put a piece of pink on there because the whole thing was basically orange. It was not my intention to make an orange pen. And you'll see how I change that at the end of the video. So I think I'm going to put a couple more pieces of the pink on here, just to give it some character there. Yep. Rub that in. I just didn't like the pen being so orange and nothing else, so I was adding the pink to it. That's the back end of the pen. I was just, you know, kind of pounding it down a little bit to make it flatter. Okay, so we're going to set that one aside, and now I have an orange ball of the clay and a black ball of the clay. Ugh, can't talk, clay. And I'm going to do the same thing that I did to the other balls. I'm going to flatten them out with my pasta maker. This was the orange and the pink that I had left over from this past pen, actually. So it's mostly orange. And then I made a black ball. So there's that piece. And now we're going to work on the black piece. And I do start it on the setting of 6 when I run it through. And then I go to 4. And then I go to 3. And then I go to 1. And you want to end up on 1 so that it's pretty thin to wrap around your pen tube. And see this here, I'm not exactly laying it on top of each other, but kind of side by side. I folded it up, and we're going to run it through the pasta machine. I think it just makes it a little bit different from, instead of, you know, putting it all together and making one color, this way it will make variations of the color. Just keep putting it through your machine. That's looking pretty cool. So just fold it over, put it back through again until it looks the way I want it to look. And you want it, like I said, you want to end on the setting number 1. That's the thinnest setting. And it gets it pretty thin. So I'm just trying to decide which side I want to be on the outside of my pin. Gonna lay my pin casing on there and cut off the excess on both ends. And cut off some on the sides. And again, you don't want your pieces to overlap. You want to be able to squeeze them together. That'll keep it from forming air bubbles. But if you do get an air bubble, all you need to do is get a stick pin and put it in there and squeeze the air out. So I'm just taking off a little bit of the clay on the sides there where they're kind of overlapping instead of just touching. So I'm just pressing the ends together. Just smoothing it out with my fingertips. And then I'm rolling it on the silicone mat. That smooths it down. If you get too much on the ends there, you need to cut the excess off so you don't get air bubbles. And on the very tip of the pin casing, it gets smaller, so you'll use less clay, so you'll probably need to take a little bit of that off. Now I'm just going to roll it. That makes it smooth. And that's the slanted tip there. The hardest part is working that tip where you put the ink back into it because it slants. That is a little bit harder to work with. You have to work with it a little bit to get it to where it needs to be. And when you're rolling it, make sure your other clay is out of the way or you're going to pick it up with your pin there and you're going to have lumps. So you want it as smooth as you can get it. I'm just rubbing it with my finger. Kind of tapping it on my mat there. There I had a bubble, so I just popped that and squeezed the air out. And then just pushed it down onto the pin casing. So this is a black and orange pen. I think it looks pretty good. Taking that extra little bit off of the end of it where you put the ink filler back in. You don't want your clay to go down in the hole. There's the two ends. And there's the pen itself. It's pretty smooth. And now we're going to work on the orange one again. So I'm going to add some of this black and orange that I have left over onto this pen. So I'm just going to add it on there, just pressing it on, and then I'll roll it. That'll make this pen a little bit thicker than the other pen, but that's okay. I just didn't like the orange the way it was. It was just orange and, you know, kind of unimaginative. So I wanted to add a little, I don't know, a little flair to it. So I'm just adding pieces here and there, mostly with a black on it. And I'm just going to roll it. Doesn't that look better than just the orange? Still going to add a little bit more black to it. So I'm just rolling it and then patting it with my fingers, smoothing it down, making it all pretty. Now I'm just picking up a few pieces with the pen itself. But I do like how this turns out much better than it just being orange. There's the top end of it. You know where the cap is. Just tapping that down to flatten it. Gonna add a little bit more black onto it down at the bottom where you would put the ink filler in. And I did pull those ink fillers out with like a little pair of pliers. Just shaving off a little bit of it, the excess, so it doesn't go down in my barrel. So I think that looks pretty good. And now I'm going to get out my little oven. Now, this is an oven that I only use for crafts. And I set it on about 275. That's what is recommended for on the clay package. And you preheat it, and once the red from the heating element goes away, then you can put your pins in. And you want to be careful that you don't melt them. About 10 minutes is all it takes. And you want to be careful when you take them out because they're hot. Then you just put the ink fillers back in. Now this one here, the plastic, I believe, inside the pen kind of started melting a little bit. And so I had to remove that because I couldn't get my ink filler back in. So you do want to watch that. And you don't want to use those real hard plastic pens, you know, the big ones with the blue caps and the blue ink or black caps, whatever, the clear ones, because they will shrink on you. So you cannot use those. You can only use these that have the softer plastic. These are the gray ones. And I still didn't get enough of the melted plastic out of it, out of the tube, so I couldn't get my ink filler back in. And then I kind of damaged it a little bit, so I had to straighten that out. So I had to clean the tube out some more. But because this polymer clay is so thin, it doesn't need to cook for very long. So there we go. I think I finally got it in there. Or no, did I? Oh yeah. So I'm going to show you that they write. And then once you use these up, you can always replace the ink fillers. You can buy another package of the Bic pens from the Dollar Tree. Like I say, you get 8 for $1.25, so that's not bad. So let me know which one of these pens that you like better. You like the black one or the orange one? And is this something you would try? Let me know in the comments. Again, I'm Liz with Liz's Crafts, and if you like what you see, you know, give me a thumbs up. And if you think someone else might like this, then share the video with them, and I'll see you later.